Hello, BookTube, and welcome back to Cimmerian September. This is Michael K. Vaughan's great BookTube event dedicated to the writings of Robert E. Howard, what he dubs the greatest pulp writer of them all, and I think he's right. The creator of Conan the Barbarian, but the creator of a lot of other things as well, which is kind of the point. If you need a theme for Cimmerian September, that would be kind of the theme this time around, is that Robert E. Howard wrote a lot of things that you could read and enjoy. It doesn't have to be Conan. So you're invited in 2025 to read any Robert E. Howard that's out there, that even the stuff that you even didn't know that he wrote, or that you don't think would be your cup of tea. It doesn't have to just be Conan or Kull. And I am breaking the rules. I broke the rules yesterday for the first day of Cimmerian September, and I'm breaking the rules again today. Because I'm reading Conan, yes, but I'm reading Conan pastiche fiction, written by someone who isn't Robert E. Howard and not based on anything that Robert E. Howard ever wrote. And I felt like a bit of a rule breaker, a bit of a rebel, but then Grammaticus Books, of all people, BookTube royalty, said that breaking the rules is always good, especially with Conan, and that savage sort of Conan, you can't go wrong. Now, I'm sure he meant that thematically rather than issue by issue, because there are definitely issues of savage sort of Conan where you can go wrong. But the one that we're looking at today from the 1980s is not one of those. This is the cover. And the story that we're going to be talking about here is Treachery of the Grey Wolf. And it is written by Michael Fleischer again, and the artwork this time around is by Val Mayerick, whose artwork is very static. I usually don't like it at all, but in this case it's inked by Ernie Chan, who in the course of successive Cimmerian Septembers I have learned to like. I've learned to enjoy Ernie Chan's work as an embellisher. I think he's a disastrous inker for John Buscema, the best Conan artist of them all. I think he's a disastrous inker for that particular artist. Their styles are completely different. Ernie Chan's style is lots and lots of heavy, little curly Q embellishments. He's very good for a stocky artist. He's very good for a hesitant artist. Buscema, in his unrestricted, unredacted form, so to speak, as an inker, is a very sinuous artist. Flowing lines, very, very classical in that sense. So you put that inker on that artist, I think they're going to be working against each other. And in the run of Savage Sword of Conan, Buscema had inkers that worked perfectly with his own style. Like Rudy Nebris, for instance, would be an example that I would say. And also the inker who works best with his style, himself. What I wouldn't give for 200 issues of Savage Sword of Conan, drawn by John Buscema and inked by him. But with plenty of treasures this time around. And the cover here is by Joe Jusko, and it shows Conan, and a buxom wench is hanging on his harness, and he is standing on an ice mountain, and you want to go over there? Or you want to stick next to me? There you go. He is standing on an ice mountain, and he has just eviscerated, with a backhand swipe, a ninja. And the ninja looks very alarmed, as you would too if you had just been eviscerated. Once again, as with yesterday, we see clear enough what the violence is, and as with yesterday's cover, it is the same kind of violence, someone being bisected, but we don't see the violence. When that's a little odd to me. The Savage Sword of Conan was originally created so that you could see the violence. Maybe not on the cover, although a very, very early John Buscema cover shows Conan holding up a gorily beheaded head. But this never happens. In the story, there's no comely wench, there's no ice mountain, there's no ninja, there's nothing like that. And that, I'm speaking heresy here, especially in Michael K. Vaughan's own event. But I've never really liked Joe Jusko's covers. I know he's a legend by now, and he's done a lot of original work for Edgar Rice Burroughs Incorporated. But I've never really liked his covers. Savage Sword of Conan had an absolute legend doing covers for Conan. We're going to see at least one of them in the month of September, and Jusko isn't it. Especially when you turn to the frontispiece of this issue, Val Mayerick artwork with Ernie Chan inking, you get what would have been a fantastic cover. Look at that. Just look at that. Imagine that, only without the busy grayscale shading, instead painted. It's a terribly formidable opponent. Axe raised. Conan is dropping his sword. There's the background, the epic background, the clouds. That as a painted cover would have worked so much better. But we won't belabor the point. Instead, we will move forward with the story. So we will move forward with the story. So once again, as with the last issue, the last time that we checked in with Conan was the White Tiger of Vendia, where Conan is basically on vacation. He and his men have spent a long time stealing taxes from the king, and they decide, all right, we're a little bit too hot property now, so we're gonna take a break and lie low. And Conan vacations in Vendia, and it doesn't take him long to get up to trouble. In this issue, he is still vacationing. He is in Zamora, the land of thieves. When suddenly, well, I'm jumping ahead of the story. First of all, we should see Conan in battle, in an epic Ernie Chan battle scene. Now, the artwork here is credited to Val Merrick and Ernie Chan, but whenever I see that in a comic book of any kind, if I see the artist is credited and then the inker is credited, if I look at a scene and it looks like the simple soul handiwork of the inker, that looks exactly like what Ernie Chan would write on his own, draw on his own, then I don't really believe the artist was involved. Could be, I could be wrong, but that is an epic battle. Two forces, Conan leading the forces against the enemy, when he knocks the king down off his horse and says, maybe now you want to sue for peace. And of course the king does. He wants to sue for peace, and he raises his hand and tells his men that there will now be peace between him and the kingdom of Aquiloria. King Conar of Aquiloria has coerced peace from his neighbor. But you say, there is no Aquiloria in the Hyborian Age, and there certainly is no King Conar. You're right. You're right. This is a different world. This is an alternate world. Governed over by three sons, and separated from the world of Conan by a mystical fog. And we shift from that world, where King Conar has coerced peace from one of his enemies, we shift from that world to our world, where Conan is in Zamora. He is in the infamous Mall of Zamora, the city of thieves, and he has a comely wench by his side. And she says to him, the city is stinky, you're drunk, and I'm drunk, and we're very much into each other, so let's wander out into the hay fields and get about our business there. And Conan agrees, even though this is an obvious trap. And it is an obvious trap. Men show up right away. She has lured him there, and men show up right away. And there is some... Fleischer, the writer, does some very clever writing here. That you just blow right by. You will blow right by it if you're not paying attention. Like, for instance... Conan immediately strikes out. He might be a little drunk, and he might have had his mind on other things, but he has his sword ready, so to speak, and he kicks out with his arm and with his leg, blocks this guy from behind, and one of the assassins says, encircle him, brothers, encircle him. He's got only one pair of hands after all. At which point Conan cuts his pair of hands off. That is clever. That is good tongue-in-cheek humor. And it's followed up immediately by someone else saying, by Ehrlich, if you hadn't sidestepped so swiftly, that blow would have cleaved your head from your shoulders. And he gets his head cleaved from his shoulders. But not by Conan. Instead, by this guy. A giant, mighty warrior with a wolf's head and pelt on his back, who calls himself the Grey Wolf. And the minute Conan's face is turned, he knocks him out. One punch to knock him out. And walks him through these mists to another world. A world governed by three sons. Where he brings him to King Conar, who has met him before. I guess it must have been an earlier issue of Savage Sword of Conan, one that I'm not showing you today, although it could happen in the month of September. Conan has been here before. We're told in Savage Sword of Conan number 93, and this is Savage Sword of Conan number 104. So that's just time enough for fans to write in and say, please give us another adventure in this alternate world, in this alternate Hyperborea. And King Konar says, no hard feelings, I sent the Grey Wolf to get you. I need you. No hard feelings. I just need a capable duplicate. We look exactly the same, and I need you to go on an errand. Now we get Conan's previous adventure here briefly recapped, and in the recap we learn something that King Konar doesn't know, which is that Conan, plain old commoner Conan, stooped his wife before leaving this misted kingdom. He had conjugal relations with the king's wife. The king has learned of a plot on the part of his enemies to suborn the peace that he has worked out with the foe that he knocks down in battle. And the king really wants peace. King Konar really wants peace. So he sends Conan on a mission to figure that out, knowing that the king that he has made peace with is coming to Aquiloria in order to sign a treaty. King Konar can't be in two places at one time. He wants to investigate what's going on, this skullduggery that is undermining his peace process. But he also has to be there when the king comes for his visit. Now, his enemies, let me show you, there's a great picture. See, they're always lurking in the background, and they very skillfully, Fleischer, the writer, very skillfully makes these men provide us with a kind of Greek chorus expo dump. They are telling us why they're watching what they think is King Konar leaving with the Grey Wolf. They're telling us what's going on. It's a very organic way to do things. That, again, would probably be underestimated if you weren't paying close attention. But for Cimmerian September, we are paying close attention. Conan does indeed go to this stronghold in order to rescue the king's kidnapped bride and find out who kidnapped her and why they're trying to undermine the peace process. In the meantime, to entertain the king, the visiting king, King Konar has Grey Wolf give a demonstration of his fighting ability. Just knocking people around. There's no bloodshed, and there's good dialogue when it comes to that. Let's see here. The visiting king says, "It isn't fair, Konar. During our years-long war, Grey Wolf always fought to kill." And King Konar says, now it's your turn to be reasonable. You cannot expect Grey Wolf to slaughter my own elite guardsmen purely for the sake of a gladiatorial display. And they agree that was very impressive. But the minute Grey Wolf leaves the arena where he's put on his display, he meets our skulking friends, and it turns out he is in league with the enemy. That's devastating. He is in league with the enemy, and he needs to get to Cimmeria, not Numidia, but Cimmeria, as fast as he can, because this duplication is dangerous. It could allow peace to succeed. Cimmeria might fail to unsettle the peace talks. Conan ends up with the queen in her dungeon. And she immediately knows it's him. He tells her, don't tell these guards that I'm not the king. But she immediately knows that it's not her husband. I don't know why. I don't know how that is. We're told that they're identical, but she knows immediately. No, the light from the barred door etches your features more clearly now. You're not Konar. You're Conan, my dearly beloved. They embrace. He's taken. I mean, you saw those guards enter her room. They see him. They think he's the king, and he is taken. At the same time that the ambassadors, a couple of the courtiers of the visiting king, are killed in King Konar's palace, hoping that will stir up the resentment that hasn't happened yet. And Conan is being tortured. Rather liberally, we're told, although again not shown. The torturer says, I've been using hot pincers on him. Typically you would do that hot pinches would leave marks. There don't appear to be many marks. When they decide to bring in the king's wife and torture her, figuring that Conan won't be willing to put up with that. There's a neat little line of dialogue. One of the torturers says, let's see, where should we begin? And the other torturer says, the eyes, I'd say. After all, I've gotten along perfectly well with only one. And that's when Conan shatters his eye beam and starts attacking these men. Kills them all, and tells her that they just have to get back home as fast as possible. Now, word has spread. It's a little subplot, but word has spread that this king's two courtiers have been killed, and he gives King Conar 24 hours to prove that it isn't just treachery on your part, on the part of Aquiloria. And Conan and the king's wife are headed back there. They will be all the proof that is needed, when they are interrupted by the Grey Wolf, who has decided he has found them, and he says, let's see here. For in truth, my Cimmerian masters would never forgive me if I allowed either of you to return to Aquilonia alive. And Conan and Grey Wolf fight. Now, this part, I do believe, was drawn by Val Merrick, because this is the most static, epic fight imaginable. This should be a difficult fight. Grey Wolf is formidable, but look at that. Look at that. That's when you don't often know what's going on, and when you do know what's going on, it's dumb. I also want to point out to those of you who are maybe not familiar with hand-to-hand combat with bladed weapons, this is a comic book. That which would shatter or make that sword useless. If a powerful man swung the edge of an axe against the blade of a sword, you'd never use that sword again. You certainly wouldn't be able to hurt anyone with it. And also, well, we'd have to dwell on the physics of it. But that is such a comic book thing to do. It's just as much of a comic book thing as a character holding the blade of his sword. But these two are fighting, and there we have the tableau that we started with, and they topple off the cliff while she's watching. And she is thinking, well, either one of them could win. They're both incredible fighters. But once they hit the water, and when they come up, it's Grey Wolf. So she is terrified. She runs. She finds a horse and makes her way back to the kingdom, and makes her way to the king to tell him that his friend Conan is dead. And he stalks away from her. He's not all that happy with her, and I don't blame him. He can't be a fool. When he is suddenly accosted by yet more of these armed people in his own kingdom. And he says, have you forgotten that I was not always a king, pampered or catered to? And they don't care, because they say there are too many of us. But he gets help from Grey Wolf, who helps him to fight these men. And the two of them manage to make short work of these men. And these big panels that, again, I'm not a big fan of Val Merrick. With those big panels, you can't help but think, what would John Buscema have done with those panels? These fight scenes would be a lot more interesting. And when all the men are dead, Grey Wolf reveals himself to be Conan. He killed Grey Wolf and came back on his own. He thought it would be better if he kept his identity secret. All is made well. These two convince the other king that it was all skullduggery on the part of Grey Wolf and the folk of Cimmeria, and the treaty is signed. And there's a little bit of a bittersweet ending. Conan, of course, rides away towards the mist, where he came in the first place. And Conar and his wife, they're not happy. She's crying, but they're not happy. What does he say to her? He says, by Crom, I envy his unfettered wildness, his freedom. Maybe one day I'll... And then he says, blast you, woman, behave like a queen. So all is not well in Aquilonia. but that is the end of the adventure. Conan has been taken to this alternate reality in order to help out his friend, which is basically himself. And it's a pretty good story. I wish that the artwork were better, but it's a pretty good story. And if we're asking, what about a great Conan moment? There is a great Conan moment. When Conan first breaks free of his torture rack, He kills 2 of his torturers, and 1 is running for the door. And the queen says, well, Conan, you can't let anybody escape. If they raise the alarm, we'll have the whole town against us. And he says, I know that. He plans to kill the man. And we are told this, the narrative, see there, he's chasing the man, and then he snaps his neck. But the narrative we get is terrific. Long, painful hours on the torturer's rack have taken their toll on the Cimmerian's speed and strength. But only the bone hand of death will ever quell his savage spirit, his indomitable determination to conquer and endure. Only the grave will ever rob him of the sheer barbaric ferocity that has made him the mightiest, most unconquerable warrior of his age. One day, death will claim Conan as in fullness of time it claims all living things. But when it comes, it will find Conan on his feet, sword in hand, fighting unto his last breath to survive. That is terrific. That is absolutely terrific. Right down to the little visual flourish of making these look like scrolls instead of just word balloons or narration boxes. Terrific. Absolutely terrific. So this again has a Bran McMorran backup feature, but this was a terrific pocket adventure. And no cost at all, because it takes place in an alternate world, and that alternate world is fairly interesting. Grey Wolf is fairly interesting. I'd like to know more about him. Maybe he occurs in Savage Sword of Conan 93 that I didn't read. I'd like to know more about him. I'd like to know how he was suborned, or was he always disloyal? But so I would give this 3 lopped heads for the fun of the story, and also for that great Conan moment. And we also have a letter. There's the whole 2-page letter spread here, and there's a letter that I don't particularly agree with from Hermitage, Pennsylvania. Fantastic issue number 100 was one of the best. Continue the good work, and the cover was incredible. Let's have more covers by Joe Jusko, okay? That's a little bit... It's okay. I guess if you're going to do that, I mean, I'm not going to begrudge the man work, but still, I'm not a big fan. That, I mean, honestly, book 2. Those are the 2 of you who are watching. Tell me that is a better cover than that. Honestly. And this is something that happens in the story. It's inherently more dramatic. But anyway, there's another Conan pastiche adventure for Cimmerian September. I'm assuming that other people are doing their own, hacking their own Cimmerian ways through the wilderness. So I'm marching to the beat of my own drummer here. But I'll wrap this up for now, and I'll be back next time. Thank you, Book 2.